The question that changed everything. The Nexus station hung suspended in the void between galaxies, a testament to engineering that defied comprehension. Captain Marcus Rivera pressed his palm against the observation window, watching starlight bend around the station's gravity wells. Beside him, Dr. Elena Volkov adjusted her neural translator for the 100th time, her fingers trembling slightly. 300 species, Elena whispered, her breath fogging the reinforced glass. 300 civilizations, and we're the youngest by millennia. Marcus nodded, his reflection overlapping with the distant spiral of Andromeda. The Intergalactic Assembly hasn't inducted a new member in over 2,000 years. We're either about to make history or become a footnote in it. The summons had come 6 months ago, transmitted through quantum relays that humanity had only recently learned to detect. The message was simple: present yourselves for evaluation. Prove your worth to the cosmos. The journey to Nexus Station had taken every resource Earth could muster, pushing their experimental FTL drives beyond safe limits. A melodic chime resonated through the station's corridors, calling all representatives to the Great Chamber. Marcus straightened his uniform, the blue and green of Earth's banner stark against the utilitarian gray. Elena clutched her datapad, containing the sum of human knowledge, art, and achievement compressed into quantum storage. The Great Chamber defied geometry as humans understood it. The space seemed to fold inward and outward simultaneously, accommodating beings of vastly different scales and dimensional requirements. The Quilarians occupied tanks of liquid methane, their tentacled forms creating mathematical equations with their movements. The Void Dancers existed as patterns of dark matter, visible only through specialized sensors. The Silicon Hegemony stood as living mountains of crystal, their thoughts transmitted through harmonic frequencies. At the chamber's center floated the Council of Five, the eldest races who governed the Assembly's decisions. The Eternals, beings of pure consciousness housed in shells of compressed time. The Architects, who claimed to have seeded life across a dozen galaxies. The Observers, whose compound eyes could perceive every spectrum of reality simultaneously. The Harmonizers, whose very presence created balance in chaotic systems. And the Primarchs, the first sapient species to emerge after the universe cooled. Supreme Adjudicator Korthax of the Primarchs extended what might have been considered an arm, though it existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in each being's consciousness, translated perfectly into concepts they could comprehend. Humanity of Earth, you stand before the Intergalactic Assembly to prove your worthiness. You have demonstrated basic mastery of faster-than-light travel, quantum communication, and rudimentary energy manipulation. These are minimum requirements achieved by every species present. But technology alone does not grant membership. The chamber pulsed with colors beyond human perception as hundreds of alien minds focused on the 2 human representatives. Marcus felt the weight of their attention like a physical force. Each member species has contributed something unique to our collective, Korthax continued. The Seraphids brought the gift of temporal navigation, allowing us to perceive potential futures. The crystalline network shared their ability to store consciousness in imperishable matrices. The Nebula Weavers taught us to harness the power of stellar nurseries. Elena watched as holographic representations of each species' contributions materialized above them. Technologies and philosophies that reshaped reality itself, each more impressive than the last. Now, humans, we ask you the question that determines your fate. What do you value above all else? What core principle defines your species? What unique treasure do you bring to our assembly? Marcus and Elena exchanged glances. They had prepared for this moment, consulting Earth's greatest minds, but standing here, surrounded by beings who had conquered entropy and transcended death. Their prepared speeches felt hollow. The Void Dancers rippled with anticipation. The Quilarians ceased their mathematical dance. Even the perpetually active photonic swarm stilled their oscillations. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Honored members of the Assembly, humanity values something that may seem primitive to beings of your advancement. She paused, drawing breath. We value imperfection. The chamber erupted in a chaos of communication. Translation matrices struggled to convey the concept across species, whose languages had no word for flaw or failure. The Silicon Hegemony's crystals resonated with what might have been laughter. The observer's countless eyes narrowed in confusion. Imperfection. The word came from the Eternals, beings who had achieved flawless existence eons ago. You consider this a virtue? Marcus joined Elena at the podium. Not just a virtue. Our foundation. You see, every species here has achieved perfection in their chosen domain. The harmonizers create perfect balance. The architects design perfect structures. The observers see perfect truth. But perfection is an endpoint. Once achieved, where do you go? He gestured to the assembled species. When did any of you last face a challenge you couldn't overcome? When did you last feel the thrill of uncertainty, the joy of unexpected discovery, the growth that comes from failure? The Zephyrians, beings of pure energy, flickered with indignation. We have evolved beyond such needs. We have conquered uncertainty. And in doing so, Elena interjected, you've conquered surprise. You've conquered wonder. You've conquered the very thing that drives evolution forward, the need to adapt, to overcome, to become something more than you were yesterday. She activated her data pad, projecting images of human history into the chamber. Look at us. We still age. We still die. We could have engineered these flaws away, but we chose not to. Because our mortality drives us to make each moment count. Our fragility teaches us empathy. Our mistakes teach us wisdom. The images showed humans throughout history falling, failing, getting back up. Scientists whose experiments exploded. Explorers who got lost and discovered new continents. Artists who broke the rules and created masterpieces. You call them flaws, Marcus continued. We call them features. Every scar tells a story. Every failure teaches a lesson. Every imperfection is an opportunity to grow. While you've achieved your final forms, we're still becoming. We bring to this assembly the one thing you've all lost, potential for surprise. The Council of Five exchanged communications in frequencies beyond human perception. The Primarch's form shifted through several dimensions before stabilizing. You claim imperfection as a strength, Korthax projected, its tone unreadable. Yet you seek to join an assembly of perfected beings. Is this not a contradiction? Elena smiled, a distinctly human expression that several species attempted to analyze. That's exactly why you need us. You've become a closed system, perfect but static. We're the random variable, the chaos element that prevents stagnation. Every perfect system needs a little entropy to keep it alive. The crystalline network resonated with a new frequency. They suggest we have stopped evolving, haven't you? Marcus asked. When was the last time any species here fundamentally changed? When did you last surprise yourselves? The question hung in the vast chamber like a physical presence. For the first time in millennia, the intergalactic assembly fell completely silent. Even the background hum of quantum processors stopped. The observers with their infinite eyes turned their full attention to the humans. You're saying our perfection is a prison? We're saying perfection is a choice, Elena responded. One we chose differently. We chose to remain messy, unpredictable, capable of both terrible mistakes and impossible achievements. We chose to keep the ability to fail, because failure is just success wearing a disguise. The truth that united the galaxy. The silence in the great chamber stretched into its third minute, an eternity for beings who could process millions of thoughts per second. Then something unprecedented happened. The eternal known as temporal echo began to laugh, or at least created the closest approximation its consciousness-based existence could manage. The sound rippled through dimensions, causing probability waves to dance. By the first stars, temporal echo projected, its amusement coloring every translated word. When did we become so boring? The statement shattered the tension like crystal. The harmonizers, who hadn't experienced discord in their collective for millions of years, suddenly found their members disagreeing, and seemed delighted by it. The void dancers began moving in patterns that had no mathematical purpose, just aesthetic whimsy. But not all were convinced. The Zephyrians, led by their prime conductor Valax, flared with aggressive energy. This is absurd. They celebrate weakness. They embrace chaos. How can such beings contribute to galactic order? Marcus stepped forward. Respected Valax, when did your species last create something truly new? Not an improvement or refinement, but something completely original, the energy being pulsed, cycling through spectrums of light. We perfected energy manipulation 4.7 million years ago. There was no need for further innovation. No need, Elena repeated softly. That's where we differ. Humans create because we must, because we're driven by dissatisfaction, by the gap between what is and what could be. Our imperfection is our engine. She pulled up more data, this time showing human achievements. In just the last century, after discovering FTL travel, we've developed 17 different approaches to the same problem. Not because we needed to, but because we could. Because different humans saw different possibilities. Our diversity of thought, born from our individual imperfections, creates solutions you've never imagined because you've never needed them. The architects, massive beings who had built structures spanning galactic clusters, leaned forward. Their speaker, a being called the Foundation, vibrated with curiosity. Show us. Demonstrate this chaos-driven innovation. Marcus and Elena had prepared for this possibility. Elena activated a quantum projector, displaying a problem the assembly had marked as unsolvable. The paradox of infinite recursion, a mathematical proof that had stumped even the Silicon hegemony's vast computational networks. This problem assumes perfect logical progression, Elena explained. Every species here has approached it the same way, seeking the elegant solution. But humans, she smiled, we cheat. Her fingers danced across the datapad, introducing random variables into the equation, deliberately breaking mathematical laws, then rebuilding them in impossible configurations. The Silicon hegemony's crystals began resonating at frequencies that indicated extreme agitation. You're introducing errors deliberately. They harmonized in protest. We're introducing creativity, Marcus corrected. Sometimes the only way forward is to go sideways. The equation suddenly collapsed, then reformed into something entirely different. Not a solution, but a transformation of the problem itself into something solvable. The paradox hadn't been answered, it had been made irrelevant. The observer's countless eyes dilated in unison. Impossible. You didn't solve it, you changed the rules. Exactly, Elena beamed. Perfect beings follow perfect rules. We break them and make new ones. That's what we offer, the ability to think outside frameworks you didn't even know you were trapped in. Supreme Adjudicator Korthax shifted through several dimensional phases, consulting with the Council of Five in frequencies beyond perception. The assembly waited, 300 species holding their collective breath or equivalent. Finally, Korthax stabilized. The human application presents us with a paradox. They offer imperfection to a perfect system, chaos to order, uncertainty to certainty. By every measure we've established, they should be rejected. Marcus felt Elena's hand find his, a small human gesture of support that somehow seemed to catch the attention of every being present. However, Korthax continued, they have also shown us something we had forgotten existed, surprise. For the first time in eons, this assembly faces something genuinely unexpected. The humans have made us question perfection itself. The Primarch paused, its form flickering through spectrums of possibility. More importantly, they've reminded us of something we lost along the path to transcendence, joy in the unknown. The crystalline network. When did you last calculate something without knowing the answer beforehand? The network resonated with uncertainty. We cannot remember. Void dancers, when did you last move without purpose just for the pleasure of movement? The dark matter beings swirled in contemplation. Not since we achieved optimal patterns. Korthax turned back to the humans. You offer us something we didn't know we had lost. The ability to be surprised by ourselves. To fail and learn. To grow not toward a predetermined perfection, but toward possibilities we haven't imagined. The Council of Five merged their consciousness briefly. A decision-making process that typically took nanoseconds but stretched to a full minute. When they separated, each member projected the same message simultaneously. The Intergalactic Assembly votes to accept humanity, not despite their imperfection, but because of it. They will serve as our random element, our chaos factor, our reminder that perfection without growth is merely stagnation. The chamber erupted, not in protest but in something that hadn't been seen in the assembly for millennia. Celebration mixed with uncertainty. The Seraphids began exploring timeline branches they had previously dismissed as suboptimal. The photonic swarm deliberately desynced their oscillations, creating patterns of pure aesthetic chaos. But Korthax wasn't finished. Furthermore, the Council proposes something unprecedented. Humanity will not merely be members but will serve a unique role as innovation catalysts. They will work with each species, introducing their imperfect perspective to problems we've considered solved. They will ask why when we've forgotten to question, and what if when we've stopped imagining. Elena felt tears on her cheeks, a purely human response that fascinated the assembled aliens. "We accept with honor and humility," Marcus added, "but we should warn you, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. We might even accidentally break things that work perfectly well." Temporal Echo's consciousness sparkled with amusement. "Good. It's been far too long since anything broke around here. Perhaps breaking is just another word for opportunity." As the assembly dispersed, each species processing this fundamental shift in their worldview, the observers approached the human delegates. Their multiple eyes focused with an intensity that would have been unnerving if not for the unmistakable curiosity behind it. "You've changed us," they said simply. "For the first time in eons, we don't know what comes next." Elena grinned, a perfectly imperfect human expression. "Welcome to the human experience. It's terrifying, isn't it?" "Yes," the observers admitted, and then added something that shocked even them. "We think we like it." As Marcus and Elena stood in the emptying chamber, watching ancient beings excitedly embrace uncertainty for the first time in millions of years, they realized they hadn't just earned humanity a place in the galaxy. They had reminded the galaxy what it meant to be truly alive, imperfect, uncertain, and absolutely wonderful because of it. The stars outside Nexus Station seemed to shine a little brighter, their light no longer perfect but somehow more beautiful for the variance. The universe had just become a little more human, and therefore a little more possible. Humanity's greatest gift to the cosmos wasn't their technology or their knowledge. It was their stubborn refusal to be anything other than beautifully, chaotically, perfectly imperfect. And that changed everything.